Welcome back to Data and Drams. In this episode, I'm joined by Gabriela Guiu-Sorsa, a cybersecurity leader whose career path started not in a server room, but on the open ocean. Gabriela transitioned from the maritime industry to the front lines of digital defense. She brings a unique perspective forged in the high-stakes environment of cruise ships, where risk management, resilience, and adaptability aren't just corporate buzzwords, but daily necessities. We dive deep into the terrifying turning point that changed everything, a personal cyber breach that wiped out her life savings. Rather than backing down, Gabriela turned to mastering cyber forensics and completely reinventing her professional identity in a post-COVID world. In our conversation, we explore how lessons from the sea apply to securing the cloud, why involving cybersecurity early in the project lifecycle is the ultimate game changer, and her impactful work with cybersecurity champions of tomorrow, dedicated to empowering the next wave of cyber professionals. For our dram of choice, we poured the Balvenie 14-year-old Caribbean cask. It was a fitting tribute to Gabriela's maritime roots in the Caribbean and her current role in cyber. Smooth and sweet on the surface, but backed by a rich, oaky resilience and a spicy finish that lingers long after the first sip. Much like her leadership style, it is a perfect blend of old-world discipline and new-world adaptability. So if you're ready to dive in, pull up a chair, pour yourself a drink, and join Gabriela and I for Data and Drams.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I am going to pour us a drink,
Okay.
just a little bit. I know that you're not generally a whiskey drinker,
Yes.
but I have forced you into drinking whiskey a few times. So when I asked you, I know you mentioned a dark, spicy rum.
Yes.
Yes. So I chose the Balvenie. It's matured in a spiced rum cask.
Mm.
So I thought we might try that. I haven't tried it myself,
Okay.
but I'll give it a little tipple and we'll see how we go. But
Oh, and it's an awesome presentation. And it does look like the rum,
Rum?
like the Caribbean rums,
yes.
right?
So if you have a look at that, and it'll also show you
14 years.
yes. The presentation's beautiful.
Yes.
All right. Beautiful.
I think my favorite thing about whiskey is actually smelling it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got your teeny weeny one.
You even put oh, that's so cute.
Figured
Deodorant
if you're
drums.
gonna do it, you do it right the first time.
All right, so I'm going to move my microphone because I'm born in Eastern Europe, in a country called Romania, in the land of Dracula in Transylvania. And although I'm a far distant relative of Count Dracula,
Yes.
one thing they taught me, when you do cheers, you
Yes.
always do it with your right hand because that's actually prosperity.
Oh,
So cheers.
cheers. Give it a sniff. Smell a bit rummy.
It is. It doesn't smell like whiskey at all.
Sip.
Now it tastes like a whiskey. But it's very
Really nice.
I love the culture there.
The
Yeah,
Caribbean? Oh,
yeah.
me too. I went on a Caribbean cruise years ago, I think when I was 19. Oh, go back in a heartbeat. I'd love to do that. Have you been to the Caribbean?
Multiple times.
Okay.
I used to work on a cruise ship. Well, not on just one.
Well,
on cruise
that's
ships.
that's
Yes.
where I wanted to start with. Thank you for joining me. You started your career in maritime. How did you get there?
Actually, it was someone else's idea. At that time, I was temporarily living in Romania, in my birth country,
Mhm.
and had my own business. And I was getting so bored of 6 months or more of winter. And someone said, you know what? You could go and work on cruise ships if you don't like the winter anymore. And you can just choose. Yeah, you can just choose companies that they go mostly on Caribbean islands. And I'm like, Caribbean islands, where is that?
Wow.
So apply for the job. Took me about a year to get in an interview. And then that started my career at sea for almost 8 years.
Wow. All right. So I guess from that point then, you're working in a very unpredictable environment on cruise ships. Is there anything from where you are now, so obviously you're working in cyber now, in terms of risks that you've taken from your experience within the maritime industry to leadership or human risk into your role now in cybersecurity?
Absolutely everything that happened on the cruise ships
Mm.
has actually dictated or influenced what I do and how I do now in cybersecurity. And not only in cyber, pretty much everything outside cyber, in my volunteering work as well, in my family, in my friendships, everything. And it's not just risk, it's actually the mindset and the preparation. On cruise ships, you're constantly in a different country, so you're constantly changing the risk landscape as well.
Yeah.
And you learn to work with absolutely the unknown and a lot of ambiguity, because most of the ports that I have been to, it was the first and potentially also the last time. So that meant I was working also with the teams that would have met only for one day
Wow. Okay.
from different countries, and
Yeah.
almost every day I was in a different country. So there was so much dynamics and so much unknown,
Mm.
but also change of culture, time zone, air, water, food, anything. So you kind of build
Yeah.
resilience, but you also learn that the world, it's a nice place, like from a risk perspective,
Mm-hmm.
it's actually beautiful. But at the same time, you learn how to adapt by observing your environment every time when you wake up in a different country.
Yeah. That's amazing. I remember my cruise. I think it was an 8-day cruise and pretty much a country every single day.
Yeah. Now that multiply this with contracts that they usually last 4, 6, 8 months for some crew. I was lucky that my max contracts they were for 6 months,
Mm.
but that was also meaning 7 days a week, work week. Yes. So not only you learn resilience, but you also learn on how to do nana naps.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you ever get a
Now,
break? Or...
now I call them nana naps. They used to be power naps.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's absolutely 7 days a week.
That's wild. I mean, cruise ships were one of the biggest industries that were hit during the pandemic.
Mm,
At that point, you found yourself obviously having
mm,
to reinvent your career. What did that look like? And at what stage did you kind of say cyber is the direction that you wanted to go?
mm. Well, tapping back into the cruise ships, the two major events happened in my life because of the world of maritime. One was meeting my now husband
Mm-hmm.
in a unfortunate incident where I actually almost drowned and be rescued in the water somewhere in the Caribbean. And a very beautiful romantic story that, they lived happily ever after.
Yeah.
That's definitely our story. Second, a couple of years into my maritime career, I was actually traversing South America, and something happened in one of the countries. I can't even say which one because I'm not quite sure.
Mm.
I suffered a cyber breach, which
Mm-hmm.
potentially have happened either while I was using a public Wi-Fi and I had
Yeah.
absolutely no idea about cyber hygiene.
Mm.
And while I was making a payment online, potentially someone was sniffing, to use a cyber term,
Mm.
was sitting on a network and just observing my credentials and actually cloned that card that I was using when I made that payment online. And little that I knew, weeks later, actually, all my life savings disappeared from my account. So going back to COVID,
Mm.
I always kept that lesson in mind because my life actually was really impacted and also
Yeah.
impacted my family, and it was a bit of a drama. I did manage to get my money back,
Oh, good.
but I had to learn cyber forensic,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And you will smile because I'm doing something
Right
this
now.
particular
Yep.
week, and we'll talk about that probably later. So I've learned on how to do forensics on my computer to figure out the bare minimum how that attack might have happened, and also to prove to the bank that I wasn't the culprit.
Mm.
Now, fast forward, I moved to Australia with my husband, with Kevin, and continued to work in maritime. COVID hit, and I was hit by the sea of redundancies,
Mm-hmm.
like so many other people. And I think I cried. I was made redundant on Friday. I had the whole weekend to shed some tears. On Monday, I was applying for jobs.
Yeah.
There was no time to stop, particularly in those times. And my husband said, "You always wanted to go back to study. And I know that you really wanted to change your career. Maybe this is, a universe telling you that maybe you should take that leap." So then I applied for back at work program with the Queensland government. I got a scholarship, went to TAFE, did a cyber forensics and incident response certificate 4. And by the time that I finished the course, I actually also got a job in cyber.
Wow.
To today, fast forward, yeah. So I don't think there's coincidence in life when these things happen. How do I know that I found my ikigai,
Yes.
my reason to get out of bed? Because of that cyber breach and losing my life savings and the remembrance of how terrible and how it played on my mental health, because there were years of me working and saving money to purchase a property.
Yeah.
I always remember that part. So I made it my life purpose not to become a victim, but rather a defender. But not only that, to actually bring other people with me on the same journey.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized cyber, it's not about technology, but it's about people.
That's really powerful. Very
Mm.
proud of you.
Yeah, like jokes aside, it became my ikigai, and a lot of people listening that they know me personally, they would now understand why the passion.
Well, it's your why.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's a lot of people just kind of fall into roles or they do it because, yes, they enjoy it. I think it's another thing entirely to have something critically happen that alters your life. And from that actually stems the direction that you want to go. And I don't think a lot of people have those experiences that really fuel quite a powerful why in their day to day. And I think obviously it's terrible that it happened, but I think, as you said, like everything kind of happens for a reason, and that's what fuels you and
Mm.
wanting to get more people upskilled and an understanding of, hey, it can happen. It happened to me, and this is how we can help you prevent it. I think it's fantastic.
It fueled all the nights where I had to study really hard. When I was at TAFE, I was working. I had to just find any job that would pay for our bills.
Yeah.
So I was working in aged care. So I had like a 8 to 10 hour work day.
Wow. Yeah.
I was commuting as well, and then at TAFE at night. So I had like a ridiculous day, ending up in like 16 hours. And it wasn't easy. It required a lot of discipline and determination. And every time when I was hitting a meltdown moment, and there were
Yeah.
plenty of those as well, I always remembered why I'm actually doing this and what's at the end of the journey. Because for me, at the time, I actually learned from one of my colleagues that I was working with at the time in aged care. And she used to say, from Sri Lanka, beautiful woman. I remember, darling, this is just a journey, it's not a destination. I've taken that with me even today. And now I encourage also students with the same kind of mentality. This is a journey, it's not a destination.
100%. How long, because you were doing that obviously part time in the
Full time,
evenings, full time. So it's a
full
full
time.
time. How long were the hours and how long did the TAFE course go for?
I had to extend the course to part time from full time. So studied for about a year and a half. But in my oblivious mind, I thought I can do another Cert 4 in physical security. And I was doing that with the college online this time. But the cyber Cert 4 was actually in person, a hybrid, because
Yeah.
remember there was a bit of COVID back then. And so I had full time work. Went to a part-time TAFE and a online Cert 4 in physical security. Not to mention that I was also volunteering at the time. I discovered this women's group that they were supporting women in cybersecurity. and
You're
went
doing
into
that as well.
volunteering work as well. To be honest, like now, if I look back, I can't understand where I had the energy, let alone the time in my day. But there was a book that I was reading at the time, and it was called Atomic Habits.
Yes.
And that actually is still
Classic.
absolutely so impactful. I've learned on how to stack my discipline
Yes.
and also fit in fitness in my day.
Just a side note, I I love that book. The habit stacking was one of the things I took away as well. And so for me and my partner, we both get on our stationary bike
Mm,
and play games at the same time. So I'll get on for 20, 30 minutes, lose time and just play a game. And I know that I'm getting that. But also the other day I went on it, had no idea I'd been pedaling for 30 minutes. And I was like, huh, great. That kind of habit stacking is
yeah,
fantastic. Recommend it to anyone.
absolutely, absolutely. Outdoors is even better.
Outdoors is even better. Correct. Yes. I would probably fall off, to be honest. I'm incredibly uncoordinated. I just wanted to come back as well. So, when you were obviously going through that transition period, you absolutely had to reinvent your career, which you did by going to TAFE and obviously enrolling in probably too many courses at the time. If anyone is going through, I guess, a mid career change or looking to reinvent themselves and go to something else, is there anything that you could impart to them in terms of what to
Mm,
do, or is there a particular mindset or quality that they should go after?
mm. For mid-career changers like myself, you're not really reinventing yourself. You're just redirecting your skills towards something else
Mm-hmm.
that's meaningful to you. And generally, and particularly women, middle age,
Mm.
they tend to look for the mission.
Yeah,
So when you find a mission, I mentioned the ikigai
yeah.
earlier, then you're even more motivated. When you have passion, you also become more successful
Mm-hmm.
because you don't do it out of effort. You do it just simply your natural energy, something to consider. Some passion is very hard to teach. It's
Yes.
very hard to even coach or to put it in someone's mindset. And then mindset, yeah.
Mm.
Mindset over skills, right?
Okay.
Courage to have taken the first step and courage to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And don't spend too much time on preparation. What's the worst that can happen? You get a no. You get, how many times we get no in life,
Yeah.
and we still,
Oh, well,
yeah, continue to walk.
continue to walk. I think
Yeah.
it's great. And thinking about the mindset as well, for me, you can have passion for something.
Hmm.
Your mindset around that obviously fuels a lot of the way. You probably get to a certain point where discipline needs to take you the remainder. And I think discipline to continue on that journey, being okay if something were to fail, but have the discipline to get back up and try again. I think a lot of people just kind of go, oh, that's a shame, and then don't follow it through. I think discipline needs to come into a little bit more and kind of self fueling, I think, is probably a skill
Hmm.
I would like to see more people do and not be afraid of the no's.
It's a combination of procrastination. It's
Mm.
simple human nature. And again, I'm going to refer back to the Atomic Habits book, where he says don't have too many exceptions, right? So
Mm-hmm.
even if it's 5 minutes of your time, and this is something that I constantly speak, particularly with students and people that are early in their careers,
Mm-hmm.
young, that even if you do 5 minutes every day, and
Yes.
yes, it's okay to have one break, right?
One.
But like on a course of 5, 6, 7 days,
Yes.
but constantly chip away because
Mm.
once you look back half a year, it's gone so fast and you can actually realize how much you've
Yeah.
progressed through rather than constantly procrastinate. And it's human nature to procrastinate,
Oh, yeah.
particularly when it's too hard and unachievable. And that's why the Atomic Habits book is such a great reading because it shows you that you don't have to do everything
No.
at the same time. And I'll talk about European football. There is Liverpool Football Club, right? Goes well with whiskey. My husband is a big fanatic of Liverpool Football Club. And I've learned a lot about the team since I met my husband. To quote Kevin, I've been brainwashed. And one of my first interactions with this team was actually with the team manager, Jurgen Klopp. Now is a different one. And I saw a TV show where he was asked a lot of questions, an interview. And they were saying, "Oh my God, Liverpool Football Club has such a big championship, and it was Premier League, and like you're fighting against such a strong team. So how you're going to do it?" And Jurgen Klopp just simply said, "Yeah, but we fight one game at a time." And I was like, it's so simple, but
Yeah.
it's so impactful. Okay, I take this with me in my job as well. And this is something that I would always encourage everyone to shift their mindset about how they approach the too hard. With cybersecurity, the most precious or appreciated skills are actually the problem solving. You can't be a problem solver and also avoid too hard
Oh,
problems.
absolutely. I love that example because one of the other areas that I took from that book was more about the chunking down.
Mm,
So, and it's the same with any large project management plan. It's you have this big goal, you've got to chunk it down, you then distribute that into tasks for the team. It's the same thing. And I guess taking it, whatever it might be in your life and chunking that down so it doesn't feel as hard. But then, before, as you mentioned as well, is like that 5 minutes a day. If you apply yourself 1% every day, that compounds into you continuously moving rather than doing nothing. It's 5 minutes and you realize you're doing it for 10. It doesn't have to be that much, but enough that you're doing something and you can still feel yourself growing. I think everyone should read that book because it's just got so many little things that I've taken away. And it's just small, impactful things that you can do every day. I love it.
absolutely. And there is another thing. The book doesn't talk about this, but I'm just leveraging my experience with maritime. Even the bigger tasks at hand, such as building a career in cybersecurity,
Yeah.
when you never worked in IT before, it is quite a big task. Don't dive straight in. Have a little plan in place. Take the time to think. This is something also the maritime teaches you, where even when you're in distress and you're in managing an incident, take the time, don't dive in and assess the situation before doing anything, before making decisions. The same approach also when you build a big plan, right?
Yeah.
Step outside a little bit and figure out actually how you're going to deliver that. And this is where the big goal planning happens.
That's it. Absolutely. So you've recently transitioned from Queensland Fire Department to now work cover as their cyber resilience manager, which is very exciting. Congratulations. From what you're doing in your role today, what is the way that you identify gaps in compliance at an organizational level? Is there anything particular that you look for or anything that other organizations should be aware of?
Mm. First thing that I would explain to my immediate stakeholders would be about security as a feeling, where you have a house, you have windows, you have doors, and they appear to be locked, and you feel you're safe. But are they really locked? Until you actually don't press the handle, you don't really know. Or even lock it, right? Appears to be locked. Until you actually try it, you don't know. And that's something that I've learned with physical security. And I tend to explain to demystify a little bit cybersecurity and security in general, why it's everyone's business.
Yeah.
And once I've simplified and take them on the journey with me to understand that cybersecurity is for everyone, for legal teams, for procurement teams, particularly for HR teams,
Yeah.
for project managers, for transformation leads. And I think as an industry, we build this preciousness and red tape around what actually cybersecurity is. So my approach always is going to be bring people on a journey with you and make sure you build that trust and relationships and explain what actually are the outcomes and the impacts more than anything. With Queensland Fire Department, something that I am very proud of the work that I've done there is building a lot of teams together under a unified view, under a working group that they were dealing with information security matters and making them feel comfortable. They can attend and ask questions and contribute to policies, to adding new security controls, agreeing to those security controls, and essentially obtaining their buy-in. And it's essentially a lot of people, eyes on deck, as in the maritime world, they say. And that's actually something very valuable. And when I was explaining the impact, I've always used the 000 system as an example.
You mentioned this at the last conference, and I found it really interesting because, and I'm sure we'll get into it. I think for me, a lot of people, as you mentioned, think of cyber as this red tape, or I guess the thing that comes at the end as a tick box. Have we done that? Or even just a barrier to entry of things going live because we haven't got that. Where you came in with the example, which we'll go through, is actually it's preemptive and live, and everyone should be involved because the impact of people not is
Catastrophic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The 000 system, as an example, and there is a recent incident in the technology industry that relates to a particular internet service provider. I'm not going to mention the name, rather than keep it to, like what actually happened. And their networks failed. Therefore, the 000 calls were not answered because technology failed.
Yeah.
And when explaining this to teams that actually cybersecurity and information security, if we look at a broader frameworks or approach to security, it actually there to enable the business and to protect those systems. A lot of people don't recognize even this particular incident with this internet outage was that actually was an information security event. Anything that has to impact in confidentiality, integrity, or availability of those systems. And what happened in this particular case, and it wasn't the first time, it actually was the second time with the same provider.
Wow.
People died because their calls were not answered. Picture this. It took me a while to sink this in and understand the impact, and that's when I understood how important our work is. And when I moved to WorkCover and looking at the organization, actually what they support is it's again about people, putting Queensland workers back at work, making sure that they're back healthy and able to contribute to society. I look at the same potential impact. What would be if those systems were not available for workers to submit their claims, for medical practitioners not to be able to correspond and communicate? And that definitely is a motivation to explain to stakeholders the important work that we do and why collaboration above compliance.
Yeah.
And there is a concept in cybersecurity that talks about secure by design. And essentially, this was the mentality, the mindset that we want to continue to advocate in the technology community and in organizations in general, not just technology community, about secure by design, that if you actually look at an idea that starts from non-functional requirements, right, a project before it even becomes a solution, and you call cyber people in, you not only are going to build resilient systems, but you also protect your people and you avoid rework, therefore also delays in your project and additional costs.
I think it's great because coming back, I've got a few points on that. I've got a few things. For me personally, the examples hit home. So my mum retired now. She was a triple O radio
Oh,
operator. So when I was a kid, I used to go in and sit with mum while she did all the calls. And I know some of the calls that would come through. And I think, well, there wouldn't have been a thought in my mind of these calls wouldn't come through for whatever reason. And the fact that that happened, I can't imagine my mum being on the other end, wondering what's going on and everything's off, and no one's able to contact and get that support. That example was just catastrophic for me. And
absolutely. And it's more than that. It's also impactful for the workers there because majority of people that work actually call operators
yeah,
are motivated by the mission. I don't think they're motivated by the money.
not at all. It's about the what they're doing to help
Mm,
people. And I think on the other side of that, there would have been considerable amount of counseling, probably, of not being able to perform their job because of
mm,
it. The other thing you mentioned just about cyber being an enabler, and even just if you're not doing it from the start, you will have to consider rework and all these other things. When you were talking through that at the conference, it got me thinking about even just initial statements of work. And hey, we're coming in to do this program of work. We're implementing a platform. That means we need to draft a solution architecture. We need to do all these things. Are we considering cyber into that equation and bringing the team in to be able to review that? Or are we asking them at the end, hey, what are your cyber practices to make sure that this fits in? And that I think a lot of people really should be switching rather than a tick in the box at the end and going, are we compliant? It's how do we enable you to be compliant so you don't have to hear from us again?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Instead of bringing a cyber team to be your auditors, make them your partners. And the
Yes.
only way to achieve that is actually by involving them earlier
Mm-hmm.
at the stage of like statement of work, like you said. And um, it's going to take us a lot of advocacy in the
Mm.
community. And like your podcast is a great example on how we can actually transmit these messages across the community, particularly like conferences like the one
Yeah.
where you also provided your stewardship at last conference. And everything that we do, including with the cybersecurity champions of tomorrow, every non-for-profit that delivers events in the tech community and actually brings this message. At the moment, we operate in silos, and this is one of the my biggest frustrations, if you wish,
Mm.
to use the word constructively. And that is also my incentive to constantly advocate in a community, participating talks in conferences,
Mm.
seminars, and also bring the younger generation on the same journey. That is break down the silos.
Completely agree. I think I actually had a conversation with Brad about this because it is a give and take. I think I know a lot of cyber teams have become silos, but at the same time, it is an impact of not being included from the start. And it's a catch 22 of, okay, we're in a silo now, so we won't help. And it's become this kind of back and forth and why so many areas get missed. And as you said, I think it is building a partnership of we'll bring you on the journey if it's the same reciprocated. And I think by providing more of that messaging of actually, we're not a barrier, we're not red tape. If you involve us from the start, we can enable so much more together rather than
Hmm.
waiting till the end. And I think even just coming back to the example you had around the incident management, it's, I think a lot of people are in the same mindset of we'll bring it in when we need it. But actually, it's not a what if, it's when that will happen. And I think having a real life example of, hey, people's lives can be at the forefront of this,
Hmm.
it's actually quite critical that you bring them in at the start and preemptively look at cyber in that way rather than, well, be proactive about it in reality. I think that message and maybe bridging that gap needs to be more at the forefront of conversations.
Looking at cybersecurity as an industry as a
Mm.
whole and the approach, And having had these diverse lenses coming from a maritime background and having very little to do with IT environment, and also interacting with a lot of people with totally different experiences, again, that don't have this cybersecurity background or IT background, it allows me or entitles me to say that we need to do better in terms of our approach instead of pointing fingers that other work units don't collaborate with us, to actually look really deep down in ourselves.
Yes.
And use this principle, give us gain. And we need to learn actually what is customer experience for cybersecurity, even if this means clearing the ServiceNow queue and helping our customers and stakeholders before asking them to help us. And if you apply this give us gain principle, and collaboration begins, it's a natural, it grows.
Yep.
It's a seed that you plant and it constantly grows. And yeah, people automatically start trusting you. And this is how you build influence. And influence means actually leadership. I've seen a lot of leaders that I've worked with that they kind of taken this approach of really, really assertive and almost like lead through fear. And possibly that's why this red taping and the,
Right.
the land of no, cyber is the land of no. When besides the fact that not your role title decides whether you're leader or not, yeah, keep dream on. But rather than on how do you influence and how you bring people with you on a journey. And I've seen instances in my work where cyber leaders, CISOs, they were really struggling to build influence for teams to do better with cybersecurity and engage early. And it was much easier for me to influence in that part and bring people to engage with cyber early, although my role title wasn't anything related to a director or a CISO, or it didn't even scream of leadership. And just simply because I've applied these lenses of people first, empower them to make decisions, and no scaremongering.
Yes. I think when it comes to, I want to just go back to the incident management. Given that a lot of what you've mentioned is actually less technical but more human based, it's about humans and processes. When an incident happens, what would you suggest be the one thing or a leadership call to make within the first 60 minutes of something happening?
Well, again, maritime, right? Where crisis management, it's at its best when you're constantly prepared for the worst. First 60 minutes, it's about courage and making decisions with calm, even though you may not have all the facts. And people, and people. On cruise ships, for example, impact is massive. There's an example of a cruise ship that didn't apply crisis management methodology as they were trained. It's Costa Concordia. And for anyone that is listening and wants to know more about it, captain fled the ship, was one of the first to leave the ship.
I saw that.
That's about lack of courage and panic. And that's exactly what we shouldn't do when crisis hits. And that's a time when you need to be very careful and assess the situation and then coordinate. And this is something that I bring in cyber as well. It wasn't my technical skills. It was actually coordination, calmness, and actually bringing people in synergy to work, because it's not just one team. When crisis hits, like in a cyber incident, I was able to demonstrate in my previous work for teams that they thought cyber is only for cyber people. When incidents hit, over 20 teams involved in a medium-sized organization, and they didn't know. until we brought them together into an exercise and they've realized. And we built that memory muscle, into stress testing and realization that, again, I mentioned even before, HR, legal teams, finance, procurement.
Cyber's for everyone.
Yes.
I think a lot of people forget that, especially in HR and procurement, like you're dealing with people's information, their data. Do you have the right protocols in place? I think it comes back to being proactive about that. But again, it is interesting, I guess, the perception currently of cyber and people not thinking it's their role, but actually it's, everyone's a steward of that. Is there a way that you're seeing more and more people getting an understanding of what cyber is? Or is it even just supporting people in learning what that means?
Well, this is quite complex to unpack. If we look at the workers, right, particularly in public sector, I read recently a report about aging workforce in Queensland, where we have over 800,000 workers in between 45 and 65 years of age. And I read also a report from Australian Computer Society, maybe 2 years old now, that report, where in Australia we spend in the government over $1 billion on outdated technologies, workers that constantly try to navigate. So these clunky systems. So we have two major issues. Workers between 45 and 65 with low technical skills or IT skills, because like I'm middle 40s,
Not a
hard to
day over
recognize
30.
that. In my head, I'm still in my 30s, but I didn't grow up with a smartphone.
Yeah.
Secondly, outdated systems that they need to be refreshed. So already adds on complexity. Now, if you think about cybersecurity, that already has the complexity in terms of how the public perceives it. That is actually a very hard topic to unpack in a workplace.
Yeah.
So having training and awareness programs in place definitely helps to actually understand what are the threats.
You are the founder of Cyber Security Champions of Tomorrow, which is an amazing organization. And through that, you've mentored thousands globally, which is very exciting. I think we've hit 69 countries now and over 2,300 in the community, which is an amazing achievement. I guess we've obviously talked about the misconceptions around cyber and I guess what the public currently view it as, and even just within the workplace. Is there any way that you feel or anything we can do, I guess, to change that perspective in getting them to think a little bit differently about cyber?
It takes a village. Well, it used to take a village, now it takes a country. And I'm very proud actually that Cybersecurity Champions of Tomorrow is actually based in Australia and even more so in Brisbane, Queensland. Indeed, through our network of support of champions, we managed to create future champions. It's overwhelming and exciting and overwhelming again how this started from a classroom to this global impact. Key takeaways from mentoring and learning from other leaders. Again, it's about collaboration and knowledge transfer. If you wish, take it as a society mission, right? When I started the Cyber Champions, I thought of who would I want. I was very ambitious. I wanted to become a leader, and there was.
What are you not?
I knew that one day I'll fly through cyber. While those times I was struggling, But I looked around, and it was even from the classroom. I understood who am I going to count on to complete my group assignments and who is not going to show up there. I knew it nice and early. I tried different variations of group working. And then that's where I actually met Brad and brought him through. And I was actually pleasantly surprised about how he approached knowledge sharing. And it wasn't just him, it was others as well. And actually, this group gave me also the opportunity to start my first engagement in cybersecurity.
Oh, okay.
Another cyber leader, a female, that saw the potential in me and offered me an opportunity to work in her company. And she also agreed to come and speak with the students. And they were sharing their journey. And I understood something very simple, that their journey wasn't, and their career wasn't built on their own. It was built through a network of support of other mentors, of melting moments, and of learning the hard truths. And if there is something that I want to message out from the work that I do for Cybersecurity Champions of Tomorrow, is it takes a country to raise future of workforce being resilient. And not just workforce, just simply the organizations and communities, because the work that we do in cybersecurity doesn't just protect businesses.
Protects everyone, right?
It absolutely
Yeah.
protects people, and it's people for people, right? And
Mm.
built and designed by people.
100%. And I think, I mean, you've obviously spoken about what others can learn. Is there anything that you've learnt, I guess, about leadership going through that process of building out the cybersecurity champions of tomorrow?
Mm. Though I've learned some hard truths, it was a journey of self-discovery while helping others. I think I was chasing title at the beginning. Remember
Okay.
when I said I was ambitious and I wanted to be a leader? It was actually about the role title, not about the influence. I've learned through years what actually means that influence and the true leadership. And I'm an adept of servant leadership and innovation. For me, it was building a community that will be one day self-sufficient and self-funded without playing the corporate game. Maybe I'm idealistic in thinking that. I've learned also that it's okay to not be perfect. And I've learned that there is always an improvement. And the most valuable thing that I've learned is that the feedback is breakfast for champions. And I say this, and I will, particularly volunteers that work alongside me, they would definitely giggle because they hear me talking about feedback as a breakfast of champions very often. And it's something that I actually learned through my husband.
You're very good at giving feedback, by the way. Like in every meeting, you're giving feedback, but it's always constructive. It's always constructive feedback. And I think that it's always brilliant to see because I think a lot of people struggle with not only receiving feedback, but I think a lot of people struggle with giving feedback in a way that is constructive and doesn't come off as confrontational in any way. And you're very good at that. It's like, oh, have you considered doing this? Or this is actually a good way to do X. I think you're fantastic at it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your feedback. I never thought about this way. There's two lenses to apply to growth through feedback. One, while I was building Cyber Champions, I was receiving kind and generous feedback from my husband. I was much more experienced speaker than I would ever be. And every time when he was see me talking, he was generous to steer me through where I could improve. Second was through a really negative work experience through a company, actually in consulting, where someone that very likely was well intentioned didn't deliver the best message. And when they provided feedback, they made me cry. And I'm a person quite strong
You barely cry.
and assertive. So to actually get
Yeah.
me to cry, I would say that the feedback, the way that was delivered, really was mean,
Mm.
and to the point that actually made me think, why would someone ever be that mean to me? And I've studied so much about actually how to deliver constructive messages. And thirdly, also through my professional work, because when I started learning about the ISO 27001, which is an information and cybersecurity standard
Mm.
that is applied internationally, one of the frameworks that is within this framework is a PDCA cycle, yeah, a plan, do, check, act. And essentially, this is a continuous improvement loop.
Mm-hmm.
So once I've become a lead implementer in the ISMS, Information Security Management System, I kind of live through that. It's like when you're an agile coach, you live and breathe
Yes.
agile mindset. And obviously it has the PDCA cycle in it as well. So very similar. I've taken this on board and I've shifted the way I think about everything, about the way I interview when I apply for a job, the way I perform work when I do public speaking.
Mm.
And I generally tend to say in public forums, and I'll consider this also a public forum through your podcast, that I don't trust people don't give feedback, right?
Mm.
So if I deliver a document, a strategy, a policy, anything, and I always ask for a peer review because I know that I haven't hit perfection and probably will never do, and I hope so, because I like this continuous improvement
Yeah.
journey. When I don't receive any feedback, that means there's something wrong, either with that person. So I need to change the reviewer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I tend to joke saying I don't trust people that don't give feedback.
I, I love that because, I mean, one, if you're giving something and they don't give anything back, it's
Yeah.
have you had enough time to actually read it in the first place?
Yeah.
But I think that's fantastic because for me, I'm always striving for continuous improvement in myself. And I always think there's more to learn and to grow.
Mm.
And I'm the same. I love getting feedback. And I used to always get a bit disheartened when, I mean, it's a great thing to receive fantastic feedback. When you're getting the same fantastic feedback all the time, it's like, can you give me something that I can work on? Because for me, I'd like you to spend some time digging into an area that I can grow so I can be even better.
Mm.
And I think that is very valued for people who really do have that growth mindset. It's receiving continuous feedback in a way that, I guess, to your point earlier, obviously wasn't delivered in the best way. And it sounds awful regardless. But feedback that's delivered in a way that's constructive for someone, I think that, regardless of whatever method it might be through, whether it's through a formal HR process, at work we have our own portal to deliver feedback or even just a feedback
Mm.
round. I think it's critical for people to learn and grow. And people who don't ever want feedback, I think that's a red flag.
Absolutely. Don't trust them
Don't
either,
trust them.
right?
Yeah.
Well, there is multiple lenses you can apply to the feedback
Mm-hmm.
circumstances. One is obviously don't just fish for compliments because that's not the purpose of
Yes.
feedback, because that only feeds the ego and
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feed the growth. And secondly, when you do receive it's criticism, constructive feedback, feedback that is not necessarily something that you really want to hear, as in is not a compliment,
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. I've learned, and I have a funny story, it just happened yesterday. I've learned actually when there is pain, there is growth.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned at the beginning of our talk about forensics. So
Yes.
I've recently joined a SANS course, forensics.
It's very exciting.
That yes, very exciting, and I'm extremely grateful. This comes as a reward
Mm-hmm.
from a award that I won earlier this year, Kyle Mara Award, and it was obviously for the work that I do for the Cybersecurity Champions of Tomorrow. And I looked through the courses, and was like, okay, obviously, I see forensics, maybe, and I don't work with forensics actually, and although my cert 4 also about forensics, but it's that mindset. I'm still stuck in that past trauma when I lost my life savings and trying to actually figure out what happened.
Yeah.
But now working for short time, really, if you think about it, 5 years in cyber, I've learned how to turn this forensics analysis into a storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday I started day one at the SANS course, and in the room, all AFP, Australian Federal Police
Oh,
officers,
wow.
working with crime investigation, and there is Gabriela, right? All in Canberra. I was online, right? Obviously, I work with GRC, governance, risk, and compliance. In the world of cyber people, is the battle in between, oh, you're GRC, you're not technical.
Mm-hmm.
And here I am on SANS course. Thank you, Ossert, and thank you, SANS. But half a day struggling, even I could not remember even, like how to mount the virtual machines. I didn't ready documentation properly. I was so overwhelmed. Instructor was talking. Obviously, I wasn't sufficiently prepared. My director at work has given me this time to study, and I was like so overwhelmed with everything. And half through the day, absolutely panic, 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 so uncomfortable. I even mentioned to Kevin, it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I was yesterday until like 7, 8 o'clock at night trying to crack those labs.
I wonder what you were messaging me. It's
Oh my God, it
just
was
textbooks on textbooks.
it was so
They're really thick.
I had 1,000 pages to read throughout the course, and so close to tearing up. And then Kevin said, But you know what? You know that when it's pain, there is learning. You're the ones who's saying that." It's like, okay, there's more
Really,
pain now
shut
than
up,
learning.
Kev.
But as I was cracking the lab and managed to solve one of the first labs, I was already getting a little bit prouder at me because there was no team to help me to support.
Yeah.
I had to just figure out me and Mr. Google. And by 8 o'clock at night, when we actually sat down for dinner, I actually completed my lab.
Well done.
And had a good night's sleep. This morning, I was so fresh, out of the sudden, a different mindset. Oh my God, I did my first lab, built confidence. I flew through the day, already knew what I was doing. I already feel so comfortable.
That's
I
so
even shared
exciting.
with my study group, I shared my success, and I felt so much better. Moral of the story,
Trust
pain.
Kevin.
Trust Kevin. Definitely trust Kevin. But when there is pain, there is growth. And
Yes.
this is exactly what happened yesterday.
Oh, I'm very proud of you. That's so exciting. So how long is this for?
6 days,
Okay.
yes.
Intensive.
Intensive on top of everything else that happens in personal life. And also delivering another workshop, a 5-year anniversary for
On Thursday?
Cyber Champions, definitely. And I am hoping by the end of the week to become a strategic influencer in my workspace and understanding a little bit better how to build resilient systems and methodologies and strategies for the organization. Yeah,
That's so exciting.
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, brings me back to my mission, right?
Yeah, 100%. We need a drink break, I think. On that note, I think
Yes.
it's very much
And
in
too
this.
much more pain.
There's
Yes.
hopefully not.
And what I was showing you, I'll show you at the end of the podcast.
Yeah.
I was sending you a pre-screen.
I was like, what am I looking at?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, because it's attention to details, right?
Yeah.
And this is something very interesting because this is a lot of tooling, right? So obviously you're building a story, you want to understand what's happening with the hacker.
Yep.
There's a scenario, so you need to do problem solving, actually follow the forensics trail to figure out
Oh, I see.
from when there was the first break-in,
Right.
what actually they try to subtract from the organization and so on. So you have to build actually a story behind.
Yeah.
I'm working with strategies and like a bit more macro vision. And this is very, very tool based, right? I had to learn like in 2 days about 6, 7 applications on how to use them very quickly and learn like on the go on how to find registries and all that. So it's such a battle in between the macro, like looking at a bigger picture, how all the puzzle pieces fit together,
Mm-hmm.
than to go into the forensics, which is very in detail focused,
Yeah.
and like you need to
Fine
document.
tooth comb.
Yes, yes, yes. And then go back to the same. I think this is where my learning opportunity really is, in between how to juggle into high level, low level detail, high level, low level detail.
Yeah. I mean, it's like anything, right? When, as an example, just delivering a project where you have to do the high level for your obviously executive stakeholders and understand the problem, translate the problem,
Hmm.
and then going back to a team and then going, okay, we need to get into the detail
Yeah,
now. What do we actually need to do and how do we build that?
yeah.
That's, I'm very excited to see what you learn out of this.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, and I'm really grateful. So remember we were talking before about the fact that we need to bring people on a journey. We need to invest in them in
Yes.
their upskilling. I'm so grateful for where I work right now and under leadership.
Mm.
The CISO is very invested in the people,
Oh, amazing.
and having diverse team, and they're so different experiences, and it's like no other operating model that I've seen before. And bear in mind, I'm on second week at work, and they have supported me in this journey. Majority of organizations actually, and particularly in cyber, because cyber courses are quite expensive. In this
Mm-hmm.
case, I won this award. There was no financial effort into it, but yet to consider even being taken away from work for a week, that's actually a
A cost.
investment
Yeah.
and a cost to the business. And a lot of leaders don't see the value. And there is multiple ways of seeing this. Good leaders see the investment that they're going to make in you.
Mm-hmm.
Bad leaders, they think you're going to become more employable, therefore you're going to leave the organization, right?
off the back of off the back of diversity, you're quite involved in a lot of organizations, not to mention obviously your own, but also the Australian Women in Security Network, Women in Technology. You're very active in those communities. Do you see a way that more organizations can open the door for diversity and bringing people into cyber?
At the moment, diversity is unpopular on certain parts of the world. By the way, I've listened Sasenka's episode, and I think he made a similar comment, and I know exactly which part of the world he's talking about, because obviously people like us focused and investing a lot of time in advocacy in the professional world, but not only professional world, in the families as well.
Yes.
You'd be surprised. And then there is a compliance, tick the box, right? There's quotas, positive bias, etc. If we just focus on diversity, as in diversity of thought and innovation that brings, and we stop chasing this check the box, would be much better.
Mm-hmm.
I am a victim of positive bias, and it didn't work well for me in that organization when I realized that I was a diversity hire because of my exotic accent from Romania and because I was a woman, and they were underutilizing me, and that was really frustrating. And that's when I realized that I was hired for the wrong reasons.
Right.
Yes. And they didn't know how to utilize my skills. They never paid attention. So I think we should stop hiring people to fit in, rather actually create systems and frameworks that adapt to the diversity
Mm.
of workforce that now, particularly Australia, lives in,
Yeah.
because we are such a multicultural society, and actually deliver training about what it means bias and what means discrimination, to
Mm.
actually start focusing on work and competence rather than this check the boxes. While I was volunteering a couple of years ago through one of these non-for-profits that they were focused on diversity, I've noticed a pattern though. When the group was not very notorious and it was just at the beginning in Queensland,
Mm.
there was not many people supporting the diversity discussion. As the group got more and more notorious, out of the sudden, a lot of businesses start making waves about how they support diversity and particularly women in cyber. So that makes me wonder where have we gone wrong in this formula?
Mm. It sounds more like when it looks good on the resume, when it looks good for the organization to partner, that's when we do it.
Yeah. And I look at the cultures. I had so many instances where interactions were very unfortunate and not with the best outcomes at work. In previous instances where I didn't even realize that there was a conflict because I was in a position where someone would have reported into me and they were disrespectful because in their culture they could not comprehend that actually a
Right.
woman is the one that calls the shots.
Mm-hmm.
Because where I'm born, it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
right? And then once I understood from receiving feedback from a different leader that, wait a minute, maybe you're in conflict because they are simply can't comprehend how come a woman gets to tell them what they need to do.
It's a cultural.
Yeah. So once I read more about that country, right, and about that culture, I wasn't so judgmental anymore
Yeah.
because it's very hard to change and become something that you have been all your life.
It's very
So,
ingrained.
yes. So then I took a different approach. So I don't know if this is true diversity. Yeah. But it's very upsetting to see this kind of patterns in, and I think where the leadership comes in and when you have the courage to actually call it out
Mm-hmm.
and change that behavior. It took me a little while to understand that lesson. At the beginning, I was tending to hide in
Yeah.
and just move away. There is a fight, flight, freeze. For me, it was flight.
Yeah.
Now, after years of experience and dealing with this kind of instances, I am more inclined to dig in
I was
and
going to say
do the
fight.
fight.
It's like I've
But
never known you not to.
yeah, I'm not a person that you would ever see me arguing. Yeah, I don't argue. I just negotiate. Yeah. And then when I'm decisive, I say this is the only way we're going to do something. If I know that it brings or good outcomes or positive outcomes. And I've also learned to be flexible in my thinking and also not be ingrained in my ways. And I think the benefit of working on cruise ships has taught me a very, very valuable lesson. I've worked on for 8 years with over 150 nationalities,
Wow.
with some more than others. I'm always surprised. So in our cyber champions community, we have someone from Laos. Before I didn't even know how to pronounce the name of the country properly. And I have never met anyone before her from Laos. And I'm so proud to actually put it on my map of nationalities because I'm learning how a different culture works, thinks, and performs, and like the value of that diverse thinking. And I could not be prouder to actually design a whole program based on her ideas.
I love that.
Yes, so the themes, we have a new program that we are going to deliver for the next few years that we're working on. And the themes are actually based on one of our volunteers.
Oh, wow.
Yes, on her ideas that she pitched to the board. And I think it's absolutely fantastic that someone from such a unknown to me country had such a big influence in what the next generation of cyber champions are going to learn.
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Is there anything, I guess, getting people into the industry,
Uh-huh.
is there any way that organizations can help open that door for others? Is there anything you'd recommend for them to do?
Courage to admit that we haven't figured out
Mm.
everything
Mm-hmm.
open mindset, bringing people, juniors, with you and show them the way. This is what true leadership means. It's not about how many followers you lead, but how many people you influence and you support. And a hard lesson is collective thinking. None of us is as smart as all of us.
I completely agree. Hmm. Because I wanted to wrap up with this question, because as you've said yourself, you're very ambitious and you have a lot going on. Where do you see yourself focusing in the
Mhm.
next 6, 12 months, given you've obviously got the next week where you're focusing on your course? You've also got the new role. We're also doing the volunteering program. With all of that in mind and the other areas of volunteering that you
Mhm.
do, what is your focus going
Mhm.
to be, or focuses, I think?
I would like to say that I would want to invest more in my health
Hmm.
and exercising more often. One of our board members, she's launching a business that's actually about exercising and fitness.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yes. And she made me think about, like on how to approach. And I have a husband that is extremely active and is constantly reminding me that I have a job, like most of us that work in technology, that is
Mm.
very static.
I saw you post something about that the other day. And I
Yes.
was like, I didn't want to be called out like that.
And actually, we need to look after ourselves.
Mm.
It's exactly like in the airplane when they do the first aid instructions and
Oxygen
they
mask.
say you put your oxygen mask first and then help others. So this is something that I would really want to focus, on my personal life.
Hmm.
With work, I envision having a great collaboration with the teams and bringing this cyber resilience mindset and connecting the business strategy with the teams and coordination and collaboration. With the Cyber Champions is defining and launching our cybersecurity excellence program.
It's very exciting.
Yes. We also got the copyrights and shaping it as a organized entity so that it can survive even without me beyond my existence. And I would like to continue to contribute in the technology community
Mm.
and particularly focused on supporting women and people from non-cultural backgrounds where language is a barrier
Yes.
and having the right support to have opportunities and shine their skills while they're building their experience.
I love that. So that's what you're focusing on over the next 6 to 12 months. Yes, I also wanted to wrap up in terms of cyber. Is there anything that you see coming up over the next 6, 12 months, or anything that you're seeing in the industry that we should be keeping an eye on, or anything exciting that you're seeing coming up in the pipeline?
Mm, it would be very interesting to see how the Australian government is going to shape the Horizon 2. At the moment, is in consultations. If we look at the outside world of our little island in Australia, there is a lot of political and social unrest, and that would actually dictate how the world of cyber is going to look like. I think there would be in the future even more workforce in organizations, private and public sector as well. I see a lot of ASD and Australian Signals Directorate and Australian Cybersecurity Center
Mm.
investing in workforce and building the defenders, but also looking at advanced um, offensive technologies because you can't just sit on the sidelines and just wait for things to happen.
Mm.
Australia is constantly under scrutiny and we can't predict what the world is going to look like in a year, but And there is another aspect. If you look around on the last couple of years in the mainstream media, there's been so many data breaches. I
Oh, yeah.
think we kind of became desensitized from this.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't really realize what their digital identities really mean and the impact that may have. Obviously, I'm talking from first-hand experience,
But
understanding the impacts.
I think you're right though. I found myself getting quite desensitized because there was one after the other, and you're like, oh, who got breached today? Did I get an email? I didn't get an email. That's fine. Very much the case over the last 6 months,
Hmm.
especially.
And you know what? This science course also taught me that we leave a trace everywhere.
Oh yeah.
So it is so easy to be found. And particularly someone like you or like me that actually are also public figures, right? But not only everyone that is on a social media account, there was traces will never go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so easy. So as we become more and more interconnected, I think there'll be more and more breaches. So it'll be very interesting the technology, how it's going to advance to actually make it more secure and then cyber to come and protect. Yeah, I'm not a visionary on technology, but I envision people being much more resilient and learning.
I think that, I guess for me, my hope is not only getting more people into cyber, myself included, but also the general public in their own resilience and understanding of their digital footprint. I think it would be imperative of the government or any cyber program to be able to instill just a general
Mm,
baseline understanding of what that looks like and actually the impact and
mm,
how do we not get desensitized to these things, because when people hear breach they don't really understand what that means and the critical impact that that can serve to whoever's been impacted. Because at the moment, I mean, at least for me, if I'm looking in with zero understanding of what that
mm,
means, I get an email and it says, this has happened, we're looking into it. What does that mean?
mm,
What does that mean for me? How do I further protect myself? And like you said earlier, there's 800,000 people between 40 and 65. You know, how do we ensure that more and more people who didn't grow up with technology are equipped
mm,
for incidents like that? I think that would be very interesting to see over the next 6 to 12 months,
mm,
where cyber is definitely becoming more and more of a thing, but
mm,
it's becoming more of a, we need to be proactive rather than reactive, and with the mindset of, you
mm,
know, not if it's going to happen, it's when,
mm.
and getting more people educated as to what that actually means.
The Australian government takes this quite serious, and I'm talking, maybe I'm biased also serving in public service. I see this taken very seriously. For
Mm.
example, they've started a new program that's called Cyber Wardens. And
Seen that.
yes, they do a lot of advertising on
Yeah.
Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. And I think it's great
Mm.
to educate small businesses, and it's actually free.
Yeah.
And they constantly do campaigns. They do have budget. Some would argue, particularly the cynical ones, that is not enough. Well, I dare to boomerang back. What are you doing about it?
Yeah.
Right? Because
It's that 1%, right?
cyber is everyone's responsibility,
It
right?
is.
So instead of commenting from the sidelines, I know I do my bit by building a army of future champions.
Mm-hmm.
That's that instance. And it would be very interesting to watch as the new generation
Yeah.
comes, that they are much more digital literate and they would know what to do. And now possibly the threats would also be different. I mentioned before about the political and social unrest in the world, but this will bring a different threat landscape. Very likely there'll be less crime, as in petty crime,
Yeah.
there'll be always the script kiddies, the kids that are really testing to see their skills,
Mm-hmm.
like in high school and so on. And, testing the ocean with a finger. There is always cyber organized crime
Mm-hmm.
that with the social and political unrest crime, cybercrime is going to evolve into more like nation state,
Yeah.
right? Much more complex that requires more teams to solve and combat, to, organize crime. And it's very interesting, even in this course, that I'm learning about how to look at lateral movement and like understanding actually what those criminals are after before even diving into the forensics, to understand actually the context, their motivation. So psychosocial behaviors dictate as well in cyber. So I would imagine that in the next few years, a lot of cyber practitioners will have to learn about psychology more.
Yeah, definitely.
So definitely not technical.
I'm vicariously living through your experience in this course because I'm so interested to see. That is all my questions. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for obviously drinking your way through this whiskey. One more eye twitch for the road. Good job. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Appreciate it.
Well, good luck with your podcast. I'm a big fan and I've listened to your episodes. And it's very interesting to see a totally different approach to podcasting and more laid back, more about human side
All about the
and
humans
and a good storytelling.
and good whiskey.
Yeah.
Thank
Cheers.
you. And that's it for this episode of Data and Drams. A massive thank you to Gabriela for joining me and for sharing your career and leadership insights. If you loved this episode, I'd be thrilled if you took a moment to leave a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also connect with me on Instagram and LinkedIn over at Data and Drams for episode updates and my latest whiskey recommendations. Join me next time as we dive into another amazing career journey over a delicious drink. Until then, Slanjaba.